Hello everyone, welcome to Chef Shelley's Kitchen. Today we're going to make chocolate peanut butter balls, and it's a very simple recipe, and I'm going to tell you some different things you can do if you're on keto versus Whole30. There's still some things here that you can substitute. So first of all, I'm today going to be using peanut butter. And this is just regular creamy peanut butter. So if you're on keto, for example, you can eat peanut butter, but you need to eat the kind that's not been sweetened. So just regular natural peanut butter is what you want to do. If you're on Whole30, here's where you can use almond butter. So again, even if you're on keto, you can use almond butter. If you are on keto and you use the natural and you're going to add a sweetener, then you can certainly add the different options that are available to you. And you know what those are. And what I would say is you would use about 1/4 cup of that sweetener. But what I would do is probably taste it and see whether or not it's good for you just the way it is versus adding the sweetener. I'd rather start low or 0 and then add. The other ingredient we're going to add is almond flour. This is good for everyone. This is keto, Whole30. It's just good. So almond flour is what we're using. And I have basically a tablespoon of water. And your alternates here on the chips. So you all know I like using the Ghiradelli 60% cocoa. You certainly can actually make your chocolate, because what's going to happen is I'm going to melt this. So you can actually make your chocolate if you want to make it with unsweetened chocolate morsels. You can do that. There are some things you can buy on Amazon or in some grocery stores. So you can absolutely do that. If you're on Whole30, you can use unsweetened cocoa, but again, there's no sugar. So you might be okay. You want to use the almond butter, which is acceptable, and the unsweetened cocoa, and try mixing that together and adding the almond flour. I think you're going to be good. So we're going to do this in 2 steps, because I found that when you create the balls and you freeze it, it makes everyone's life much better. So we'll do this in 2 tapes. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some peanut butter. And I'm basically adding 1/4 cup. Now I'm going to actually use rather large balls. Of course, it's going to be a little sticky. And I know about what 1/2 cup is. You can use your different measures to get to that point. But I'm sorry, not 1/2 cup. I'm using 1/4 cup. Okay, so that's going to be about enough peanut butter, but you're using 1/4 cup. And as always, I'm going to put the exact measurements for those that need it. The next thing I'm going to add to the peanut butter, and also one thing here, I'm using the dish that I'm going to mix everything in. And so I like using my large mixing jar, because I can measure and I can use it to mix everything, especially when it's something small. So now I've added that. That's the almond flour, and now here's my water. Now you might be saying, well, why are you adding the water? What's the necessity with that? It just helps to bring it together in terms of making making everything stick together. I've seen some menus or recipes that talk about using gum and gelatin, and I just don't want to add all those extra things to it. And I'm telling you, I've had these. These are so good. These are so good. So you can drop these a number of different ways, and this is pretty much all you have to do in terms of mixing this. Just make sure your almond flour is mixed really well. Okay, and just think about it, if you had almond butter and then you had your almond flour. Such a great combination. So what you can do is you can drop these a number of different ways. You can drop them using your tablespoon. You can also use like one of the fruit spoons, I guess you could call it, and just kind of do, a rather large rounding of it. Some recipe calls for you to make them into balls. Let me just say, I've not seen that successful yet. And this seems a little sticky. I will tell you that I'm using a different peanut butter than I was using previously. So it does seem a little bit stickier. In that case, you can really kind of add a little bit more flour. But we're going to make do with this. I think this is still going to work. I just have to get a little help from my knife. Okay. Of course, these are not going to be perfect balls. Let's just move this out of the way. Just scoop them down. Basically, what you're trying to do is come up with a nice little protein kick during the day. And I mean, I will have one of these, and that's plenty, okay? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to continue getting these out, and then what we'll do next is I'm going to put them in the freezer. We're going to freeze them for an hour. We'll come back, and then I will have melted the chocolate, actually. This is half a cup of chocolate morsels. You put it in the microwave for 1 minute, and then you just continuously stir it. So that's what we're gonna do to get the chocolate. But I'm gonna continue putting this in, then we'll come back after an hour after it's frozen, okay? Okay, we've had the peanut butter balls in the freezer for a little over an hour. And as I promised, I actually started with the melting of the chocolate. So what I normally do is I'll put it in for a minute, and you can probably see that it's still not all the way melted. I do that intentionally, and then I just stir it. And if you just stir it around for a little bit, the rest of it will melt just because of the heat. So what we're gonna do is I'm going to take each one of the little balls. You don't want to, of course, take them out of the freezer too early. And just gonna make sure this is melted nicely. And then I'm going to drop one ball at a time into the chocolate, make sure it's covered, and then I'm gonna return it to this wax paper, okay? You're gonna see how it will start to form immediately. And I'll actually eat one because we won't wait. What I would recommend you do is after we've coated them, you know, that you put them back in the refrigerator for about 20 minutes. So you'll see they'll come off really nicely. I just drop them in, turn them over like so, and return them to the wax paper. And as I said, you'll see here shortly, because it's hot, by the time I get through all of it, it will likely be ready. But I always put them back in the refrigerator for a good 20 minutes, let them harden. And then, so we'll do that as well, okay? So just dropping them in one at a time. And, you know, I like to use a glass dish to melt my chocolate in. And then I can use that same one to just dip the chocolates in, and it's all good. And this way I don't have to microwave plastic, which I don't like doing. That's very rare for me to microwave something in plastic. Okay, and this is just about the right amount of chocolate. This typically will make anywhere from 10 to 12 balls, the amount that I shared with you. Again, I was not exact with my peanut butter, so I probably could have used a little bit more peanut butter. And so that's okay. All right, you're gonna measure yours out. Don't be like me in that case. Sometimes I get it exactly right, and then other times not so much. Okay, so again, all I'm doing is I'm simply taking it, dropping it, and I'm turning it around in the chocolate like so, making sure it's fully covered. Now, if you have extra chocolate, which I will have in this particular case, what I normally do is I'll drop in some pecans or walnuts or whatever your other favorite nut might be, some peanuts. If you want to do peanuts, so you have that. And then you've got chocolate covered nuts, okay? All right, so we're good to go here. I'm going to put them in the refrigerator for 20 minutes and then we're gonna come back, okay? Let's do that. So 20 minutes in the refrigerator, that's all it took because it had really started hardening once we took and placed it back on the wax paper. So, you know, now you just lift it up and make this beautiful assortment. I mean, these are some things, if you remember, I also did the kind that had the Oreo balls, and there's another one I'm going to come out with as well. That's a coconut coated one. That'll be in some coming episode. But here you go, just a nice little treat. Now, I had some excess chocolate, you remember it? I said put it on some nuts. I just happened to have some strawberries, so I put it on the strawberries, and so I've got some chocolate covered strawberries. I mean, there's so many gazillion things you can do, certainly with chocolate. But here you have it, your chocolate peanut butter ball. And of course, the episode would not be right without me trying it. So, woo, these are so good. I'm just gonna pop the whole thing in my mouth because it's just, let the cream just melt in my mouth. So here we go. Mmm. So good. Mmm. Creamy, full of protein. Chocolate's a nice mix. Mmm. That's delicious. And I'm telling you, it's where one is enough. Love it, love it, love it. Hope you enjoy these. What I've been doing is I'll take one for lunch as my little dessert. Some people use them to pop to get their kind of fat for the day. So whatever you need them for, they're also going to become Christmas gifts for me to my family and friends. So thank you as always for tuning in. Certainly if you've not subscribed to my channel, just click on my picture in the round button and join me. I come out with an episode every other week, and I'm focused on finding recipes that are simple, delicious, and a healthier version of some treats. And where I can tell you how to make it keto friendly or Whole30 friendly or paleo friendly, I certainly try to do that. Thanks again. Bye-bye.